Call to order the meeting of Greenwood Common Council on Monday, September the 17th. You would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after the pledge, please remain standing. We'll be led in prayer this evening by Fred Magrin Jr. of the Neurodiagnostic Institute and Advanced Treatment Center. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please pray with me. Lord God, we thank you for this evening. As the leaders of the town gather at the city gates to make decisions for the welfare and common good of all, grant them wisdom and understanding, give them insights into the concerns of the citizens of this area, and give them guidance in the decisions that they make. May we all know and understand that you are with us, always and forever, that you love us and watch over us. Peace and your blessings be upon us. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up the beauty of his love upon you.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call.
Bates.
Present.
Campbell.
Here.
Foster.
Here.
Gibson. Here. Hill.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
Lexi.
Here.
Pendleton.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
We do have a quorum. For the record, Mr. Pendleton is attending the meeting virtually this evening. All we should have received a copy of the minutes from our last regular meeting of September the 7th. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Foster, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gibson. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, in roll call on the minutes.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Minutes are approved with a vote of 9-0. Reports, Corporation Council.
You all should receive the items semi-monthly, and you should report, and if you have questions, please contact me. Happy to help you.
Anything from the controller at this time?
Not this time.
All of you should have received a copy of my report from the last RDC meeting that was sent out this afternoon. I apologize for it being late. If you have any questions, please let me know. Any other committee or board reports?
Yes, Mr. President, the Plan Commission did meet last Monday, a week ago. The main item of business was the approval of the primary plat for Redwood Apartments LLC. That was approved.
Any other committee or board reports?
Mr. President, I'd just like to mention that Airport Day was held a couple of weeks ago, and there were more than 3,100 people that came through the gates. And we had a B-25, and I think it did 9 flights, 8 passengers each. And there was also a helicopter, well, 2 helicopters there, a Black Hawk and another one that did rides. Very good event.
Good. Any other reports? All right, seeing none, then this is an opportunity we set aside for members of the public to address the council. At this time, it's concerning items that are on tonight's agenda. There is a 5-minute time limit or a 20-minute time limit per topic. So if you're here tonight and wish to speak to the council, step to the podium, please. State your name and address for the record. Anyone online? All right, hearing none, then moving on to ordinances and resolutions.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we move ordinance 2234 up to the first part under first reading.
Have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Ordinance 2234 is the ordinance regarding the redistricting of council districts. So we have a motion to move that to the front of our agenda tonight.
Second.
We don't have a second for Mr. Foster.
Okay.
Yep, sir. Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call on the motion to move ordinance 2234 to the front of the agenda.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Motion is approved, a vote of 9-0. So now, ordinance 2234.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Greenwood, Indiana, for the purpose of establishing councilmanic districts, sponsored by Campbell.
And so move for what?
It's just an
We're
introduction.
still under introduction right now.
But it is a public
So we will open it up for a public hearing right now. We Opened up ordinance 2234 for a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against ordinance 2234, please step forward to the podium. State your name and address for the record, or if you're online, please speak up. All right. Close the public hearing. Mr. Bosman.
Thank you, President Campbell, members of council. Brian Bosma with the law firm of Kierkegaard Street and Rodriguez, municipal practice group chairman. And we were engaged by the council to assist in drawing new councilmanic districts this year, which we will walk through. So the council adopted resolution 2219 on August 1, about 6 weeks ago, to set forth the process for both the council and the public to participate if they so desire to do so. We published notice in the Daily Journal, both of tonight's public hearing and the deadlines for commenting or objecting to the guidelines that you adopted on August 1, and also giving the public an opportunity to submit a plan. Objections were to public access packets, by the way, were available in the clerk's office from the date of that notice on August 5 forward. There were no objections filed to the guidelines by the date of August 12, and we confirmed with the clerk's office that the only plan that was submitted was the one that was drafted by President Campbell, and which you see before you tonight. Your first maps had, your existing maps had a deviation in excess of 38%, well above appropriate levels. So it's appropriate, very appropriate that you go through the redistricting process as required. As I'm going to step over here so I can point at some things, let me know if I'm out of microphone range. So when we start with these maps, to avoid both voter and councilor confusion as to where your district is, we do our best to start with the old maps and try to make adjustments that bring the population into better total deviation. These maps happen to have a total deviation of 5.15% without breaking precincts. And I will tell you the dozen that we've drawn with municipalities and counties this year, it's the first time we haven't had to break precincts, which we really want to do, and your county clerk really wants us to do, not break precincts if at all possible. So I'll walk through some of the changes here. District 1. Here lost Pleasant 5 to the southwest here to District 2, and picked up Pleasant 47 and 48. The remainder of the district remains intact. District 2, as you'll recall, strung from the northern boundary of the city to the southern boundary. It had a high population, so it had to be readjusted. It lost Pleasant 6, 23, and 27. Here to the northwest, 6, 23.
Is toward the north there.
Yeah, it was just 6 and 23, not 27. And Pleasant 3 to the southeast. Pleasant 3 had a population of almost 3,000 persons. Just to give you some comparison, Pleasant 23 had only 405 persons in it. So we had big diversity in some of the populations here that we had to work with. So 3 is lost by 2 and is assigned now to 3. So 3 picked up the annexed territory here to the northeast with very low population, 3 or 4 persons. And then picked up Pleasant 42 to the southwest here. I'm sorry, no, that was picked up by District 2, I'm sorry. Gave up that and picked up 3 right here. Okay, District 4 picked up Pleasant 6 here and 23, and otherwise remains the same as it previously existed. District 5 looks very much so like it did before. It gave up Pleasant 12 and otherwise remains identical. And then District 6 picked up Pleasant 12 and otherwise remains identical to its prior configuration. So as I indicated, a total population deviation of 5.15, which is good, outstanding, in fact, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, any questions?
I have a few, if I may proceed. One is more like the questions and requests. Is it possible that I could get the population count for each precinct?
For each precinct,
Yes,
you certainly can.
and I know that's how you had to come up with the numbers for each district, and knowing how much population.
That was in the public access packet, which was also part of the resolution you adopted.
Second, I'd like to ask.
Actually, I take it back, Counselor. It was not in the resolution, but that a map showing that was in the public access packets. And I don't know if the clerk's office should have any of those with them. but
Okay, so that would have the population for
It
each
would have,
precinct,
yes, it would have
Okay.
population for every precinct.
so I can get to go to the clerk's office.
Yes, sir.
To get that. Secondly, could you explain a little bit about the objectives? I know you probably had some objectives for the process of redistricting. You probably mentioned a little of it tonight, but I would imagine there's a number of objectives, one being, the standard deviation, but if you can elaborate a little bit on
I
that.
sure can. Now, that's the primary objective, is to make the districts as equal as is possible. Trying to get to that 5% number. It's really the overriding criteria and the one that was emphasized in the guidelines that you adopted. Contiguity, which means you can't have a remote portion of a precinct, is definitely part of the guidelines also. To make them compact is in the statute. That's kind of a secondary item. It was more important. In fact, the guidelines say it's secondary to population, some of the other factors. We did have a goal here of not placing counselors together if that was possible. That did require a little change down in this, but it had another option on that. We actually presented several options to the council president to select from. This is the one that he felt best represented the interests of the citizens of the city.
Well, that'd be my next question. Of course, you would think by looking at this, would probably be more than one option. Is it possible to see what the second and third option was?
Those were presented to the council president as a redistricting coordinator, were not made part of the public record.
And so apparently then this is the only option we have to consider.
This is the one that's been presented, yes.
This may be a question more for legal than for you. As we see this before us tonight, can it be amended?
Yes.
Now that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just like any other ordinance, despite the fact that we had a map made,
Sure.
and maps were submitted, the language in the ordinance itself, which contains the description by precinct that each district is, that can be changed. So,
All right, any other questions? Comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Foster.
thank you, Mr. President, members of the council.
All right. Back to our agenda, ordinances and resolutions. There are none under notice of intent to consider, none under first reading. Second reading, ordinance number 2222.
An ordinance amending the 2022 salary ordinance, common council ordinance number 2137, to add position of part-time right-of-way locator to the Department of Stormwater Management and to change the paralegal deferral coordinator title in the legal department, sponsored by Hill.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foster, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion? The council? All right, see none, then roll call, ordinance 2222, second reading.
Campbell,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill. Kaufman.
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Ordinance 2222 passes second reading 9-0. New business, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 2226.
An ordinance for appropriations and tax rates for the 2023 budget year, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
All right, ordinance number 2227.
An ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, and city utilities for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
Ordinance number 2228.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the clerk of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
Ordinance number 2229.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the city judge of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
Ordinance number 2230.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the common council of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, for the year 2023, sponsored by Campbell.
And ordinance number 2231.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the mayor of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
And just for the record, all of these will be dealt with later on during the budget presentation. So if you have questions, you can ask at that time. Ordinance number 2232.
An ordinance of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the purpose of providing funds to pay for certain capital expenditures, road and sidewalk projects, and incidental expenses in connection therewith, and on account of the issuance of the bonds, appropriating the proceeds thereof, and all matters related thereto, sponsored by Bates and Gibson.
Mr. Wright?
This is part of the budget process that discussed at the last meeting, but I just want to let you know, we will talk about some of the specifics for what we're looking to spend this within that budget presentation. But the biggest parts are road paving, purchase of a fire engine, purchase of 16 police vehicles, sidewalk replacements. There's several things in there I'll go through during the actual budget presentation. We're looking at just under $4.5 million for the bond with a rate not to exceed 5%. We don't think it'll get that high, but part of that will depend on what happens with the Fed later this week. And
Any questions for Mr. Wright? All right, thank you. Ordinance number 2223.
An ordinance providing for an additional appropriation from the aviation fund to budget classification 222, $525,000, sponsored by Bates and Gibson.
Mr. Wright?
yes, this is to provide for purchasing fuel for the airport to sell to our people flying in and out of the airport. As of today, they have spent just under 90% of the budget for this year. Biggest part of that is because of fuel prices. Obviously, with this, we actually get this money back when we sell it to the customers. So everything they've purchased so far has been getting sold. They're actually doing pretty well with the fuel sales. They've actually been up this year throughout. We've had a great year weather-wise. So this would get us through the end of the year. Make sure we're starting the year with some fuel there to sell to our customers.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you. Resolution number 2220.
Resolution of the Greenwood Common Council recognizing Reverend Mark David Owen for his years of service as president of the Johnson County Ministerial Association, sponsored by Campbell.
This was brought to my attention by Mr. Hill, and Reverend Owens is going to be retiring here soon. And as you can see in the ordinance, he has served as a chaplain of Franklin United Methodist community for over 23 years. And as long as I've been on the council, I think he is the one who arranges for someone to come and pray for us before our council meetings. He's a good man. I've known him, I've seen him outside of the council in his capacity as a chaplain at Franklin Community Methodist Community, dealing with people who I knew who lived there, who passed away, and all the things that he's done. And this is just, I asked council to prepare this and hoping that we as a council could do something to honor him in his retirement. With that, it would be nice, what we'll do is at some point in the future, I will make sure he comes back to lead us in prayer. And that night, then we'll do something to honor him, give him something to show our appreciation for his service and how he's helped us over all the years. Mr. Bates, I think you've been on the council the longest, I'm sorry. Was he doing this when?
To my knowledge,
Yeah,
my remembrance.
yeah, to the best of my knowledge, he's done this forever, as far as I know. So I would ask if y'all wouldn't mind if we could pass this through second reading tonight so we can get it done. So we have a motion by Mr. Bates to suspend the rules through first reading. Have a second? Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion on suspension? Hearing none, then roll call on the suspension of the rules through first reading on resolution 2220.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Aye, rules are suspended with a vote of 9-0. Do I have a motion on first reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bates, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call on ordinance, resolution 2220, first reading.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Resolution 2220 passes first reading 9-0. Do I have a motion for suspension of the rules through second reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foster, second by Mr. Bates. Any discussion on suspension? Hearing none, then roll call on suspension of the rules through second reading on resolution 2220.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper. Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Rules are suspended through second reading with a vote of 9-0. Do I have a motion on second reading? So by Mr. Hopper, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bates. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2220, second reading.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Resolution 2220 passes second reading 9-0. Thank you, councilors. Resolution 2221.
A resolution of the Greenwood Common Council to petition for appeal of relief from property tax levy limitations sponsored by Campbell.
All right.
This is also part of our budget procedures, but the way that the state of Indiana's property tax system works, every taxing unit gets a percentage increase on their property taxes each year. It's called the average growth factor. That's set by the state. And it's not determined by how fast you're growing. It's not determined by your population. It is, everybody gets the same. Within the statute, we do have what they call an excess levy appeal. And in that, we are able to ask if we have grown faster than the state's growth factor. We've grown by more than 2% over that over the course of 3 years. We can ask them to increase our levy, our maximum tax levy, based on that growth. Say we've outpaced the state's growth, we believe we need additional levy to fund the services that we are providing. What this would do is give us up to a 2% increase to our maximum levy, That'll amount to about $330,000 in tax levy. There are a couple other revenues that tend to follow the tax levy, so the financial institutions tax, the auto excise tax, commercial vehicle excise tax, and then income taxes are all determined based on percentage of levy. So this would benefit those as well. There would be no increase to the actual tax rate. Taxpayers won't see any increase to their taxes, but what this does is raises our maximum levy for the coming year, but then every year forward, we'll get whatever the growth factor is on that as well as what we've had before. So it will be exponentially helping us as we go forward.
Any questions?
One-time appeal or? You actually can revisit it every year based on the prior 3 years. So if our net AD keeps going the way we're going, this may become more common. But we have a pretty low levy compared to the size of our city. A lot of that is because they set the maximum levy back in the 80s, and then you just got that percentage growth. Well, we've boomed quite a bit since then, and we've not been able to capture what it would take.
So you just say, if I heard you said it correctly, that as we would pass this, this goes into effect next year.
Right.
So there's no hurry in getting this expedited down.
Correct. We want to do it along with the budget, so it's all part of one package. We send to the state.
Any other questions?
What's the process like at the state level?
It has to be reviewed by DLGF. They'll review it first to make sure that we did all of the notifications and all the options correctly, and then it'll go to their legal, and they have to make a determination on whether we actually need it based on what we submit to them. So from our perspective, the growth we've had both in AD and population necessitates being able to add funding for public safety, for roads. We're still growing, we're still annexing, we need to have that financing available.
Right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Miscellaneous business. This is a second opportunity for members of the audience tonight to address the council, this time concerning items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if you'd like to do so, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Or if you're online, please speak up. All right, hearing none, then moving on, miscellaneous business from the council. I just have one minor item. I believe Mr. Pendleton is now the proud father of a young man named Harrison Scott. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Appreciate it. That's why he's home tonight, taking care of mom and baby and daughters. So, and I like the first name. My oldest grandson's name is Harrison. So I know Harrison has family connections for you, but anyway, I appreciate that. I wanted to say congratulations.
Thank
All
you.
right, anything else from the council? All right, other miscellaneous business, corporation council.
We have none.
The moment we've been waiting for. Mr. Wright, the podium is yours.
Once again, I direct your attention to our city website. Here's our budget here. City departments, visit the finance page. Right here along the top, budget. 2023 proposed. So, I did want to address something from the last meeting. I heard there was some confusion amongst employees about the health insurance budget line item. The line item, we are increasing by 26% because of the volume of claims we have. That has nothing to do with the actual employee premiums. That's all determined next year when we get into the plan year, end of the plan year. The insurance broker will review all of our claims. That will then help set that, but that 26% doesn't have anything to do with the employee premiums. That is based on what we think we're going to need to make sure we can pay the claims, pay the stop loss premiums and the health clinic expense. So I did want to clarify that. I think there was some confusion. So the first item on our agenda tonight is the mayor's office. Within that budget, we have the cost of living adjustment. There's also a slightly larger increase on the capital projects manager salary line. That was a retention item. Somebody tried to recruit him away, want to retain him. The other services and charges increased. We did boost the funding to the social. That is split with the council. That's going up to $50,000 for the year. We've got the Access Johnson County going up to $24,000 and Johnson County Senior Services going up to $16,000. So those are split. So there'll be 25 from the mayor, 25 from council, 12 from council, 12 from mayor, and 8 from mayor, 8 from council. So when we get into the council, we'll see the same note. City council. The only changes are those three items, those contracts to support the social, Access Johnson County and Johnson County Senior Services. All right, next item on our agenda is fleet maintenance. Fleet maintenance, most of the operation is funded from the general fund for fleet maintenance. They do have some salary splits with the utilities. So the salaries and wages will increase by the 5% cost of living adjustment. As we discussed a lot last time, fuel, we're increasing the fuel estimates. So there is an increase there. And then also the oil that they buy to do oil changes for the vehicles. We need to increase that line based on the same kind of cost increases we're seeing with fuel. Services and charges, we are increasing the training budget a bit and then declining the CAM charge at the DPW building. Initially, that was set just based on an estimated annual maintenance cost. Now we have real numbers, so we were able to bring that down for the departments that pay into that. So here you can see the breakout of their general fund budget. There's the actual numbers comparing, but they also have some lines within other funds. So we'll go down here and look at the other funds that are in. CCIC tax fund. We keep 10,000 in that fund just for shop equipment. Generally, that in the past was purchased some lifts, a hot seat, pressure washer. Then also the number that's in the GEO bonds, that is for fleet vehicles. So that's the ones that are used by CDS, by code enforcement. Generally, you see it sitting out here, we'll be replacing some of those vehicles as they're aging out. From there, we'll go to the street department. The street department has two main funds, the NVH and LRS funds. Gone ahead and combine that here. In your summary, you'll see the NVH fund. All of the personal services for the street department run through NVH. It's not allowed to go to LRS. So that has the 5% cost of living. We shifted some of the expenses for fuel, repair and maintenance supplies over to LRS. On the supplies, services and charges, and capital outlays, these two funds are fairly interchangeable, but we are required with the NVH distribution to use 50% of it towards capital outlays. So we've tried to maximize the capital outlay line in here so we can meet that requirement with the state. And so we shifted other things into LRS. And you'll see that as we go through. We did move their capital leases out to food and beverage tax fund. We've added some safety training, particularly related to some OSHA courses. And then their health insurance that they pay back to the general fund is increasing just based on the health insurance increases we discussed. The LRS, really the increases there is they're splitting the safety training line with the MVH fund. So you kind of see as we go down here, we've got it broken out, MVH and the LRS budget will be down below that. So this is, I think, the only one where there's two separated funds, and then at the bottom you have the summary for the entire department. And that is going to also include those capital leases that went to food and beverage that I discussed. And then within the proposed GO bond, there are a handful of items. The old salt barn needs a roof replacement. We're looking at a sidewalk replacement program. What we're looking to do is, rather than our employees going out and doing piecemeal, we're going to bid it the way we do a street project and actually take as much as we can get for that 500K and do it all at once in one summer, and try and get a lot of it taken care of, and just kind of do that on a annual basis so that we can keep up with that. With staffing levels, it's been hard to keep up. And then community crossings grant matching, there's some Market Plaza work that's being designed right now, but that's mostly paving type projects. And then a tractor with boom mower and 3 pickups with plows and trailers are in that bond issue.
We know when the last time the roof was replaced on the salt barn?
When was the last time your roof was replaced on your salt barn?
When it was new. We did minor repairs on it. I think we did one year, do some repairs on it, where they had a contractor do a little bit.
So it's pretty close to the original. From there, we'll move to the CDS, Community Development Services. As far as changes go for CDS, it does have the 5% cost of living, but there is a decrease in their personal services because last year we had an interim senior planner when we were anticipating a retirement. We don't need that position anymore. That came off the budget, so there's a little bit of a decrease in that. Gasoline, hitting that same note again. There's some surveying equipment and a GIS receiver that's been requested this year. We have an asset management plan that occurs every 2 years. This is an off year, so that's come off. Increase for the mileage and parking reimbursements. That's usually allowing for people to go to training. A lot of times that'll be downtown or go to meetings downtown and cover some of that. And then 2 software licenses that were requested. They would be for the city engineer and the city planner. Also within the CDS budget, there are some increases to the CCD fund line. Every year, the traffic signal maintenance would fall under the CCD fund under the CDS department. We are increasing that from a previous of 55K to 100K. Mostly that is because we're bringing on new traffic signals and they're getting damaged, crashing into them. And then the contract for Midwestern Electric to do the maintenance, as we add on more, they charge us more. So we're trying to catch up with that. We've been behind on that one for a couple of years now. There is an update to the comprehensive plan. That number is our best guess based on what we paid the last time we did the comprehensive plan. But we're going to utilize that as our goal for that. Obviously, at that amount, it's going to have to go out for bid. And then there's the City Works program, the maintenance for that, as a slight increase on that one. There we'll go to the 2 funds that go with the clerk. So there is the clerk's general fund line items. The only change in that is the increase in salaries and wages. And then the clerk also has the Clerk's Record Perpetuation Fund. Also, increase for the cost of living adjustment. So those are the only changes to the two funds that the clerk is in charge of. Then on to city courts. We have the salaries increasing by the 5%. And then also there was an equipment lease that has been paid off, so that was able to roll off. Those were the only changes to the court budget. Probation fund. It's just the 5% cost of living adjustments, the health insurance, and the benefits, FICA, PERF, and longevity. So those increased as well. My department. We've got the cost of living adjustment. There was a decrease because we converted that one position earlier this year to a coordinator from specialist. We do have a slight increase to our office supplies. That's just based on what we've been paying this year. And then we removed a one-time item of services and charges that brought that down. We'll go to our capital projects funds. So the CCI cigarette tax fund, this one we don't use for a lot. It's kind of been our, whenever something comes up during the year that we didn't know about in advance. So we've shifted some general repair and maintenance supplies into here from the CCI grant fund. But beyond that, the only reason you see a change here is because we had a one-time capital item that was in there last year that we took out. So beyond that this is mostly flex budget for those things that surprise us when we get into next year and something happens that nobody was planning for. Next on the list is CCD, so Capital Development Fund. So this one, we have the traffic signal maintenance that we discussed. We've got some software maintenance costs that have gone up. We increased the flex budget line in this fund based on revenues. There was the comprehensive plan update. The capital outlays went down a little bit because the north hangar will be paid off in January at the airport. And then capital leases were shifted out of here to food and beverage. As I discussed with that fund, it is allowed to fund capital purchases. So we felt that was a good use, and then opened up this to be able to take on some of the other expenses. Human capital fund. This is the property tax rate driven one. So we moved the existing leases out of this fund. Most of what we shifted in here came out of the general fund. This was property and liability insurance. So that's not only on the buildings, but also on all the vehicles. So when you get down into the detail on this one, you'll see two lines that reference the property and liability. This top one, that's 424-200, that means police department. That's the property and liability for the police vehicles. Everything else is covered under the other property and liability. That's all the umbrella coverage, all the other vehicles and buildings. Workers' comp insurance was also moved here. But beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot of change in that fund. Our debt service funds, all of those are based on the actual repayment schedules. I'll click in here so you can see what we got, but it changes every year just based on your repayment schedule. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you can actually see the breakout by each fund. The 2022 GEO bond that we're talking about is actually anticipated to be a one-year bond. So that was why that one is showing up what it is. And you see the payments due on all the other bonds. That 2012 GEO bond will actually, that will be the last payment in January of that year. So that'll be rolling on. I did email everybody with an update just to let you know that we have added the revenue estimate page as well as the capital investments page. Revenue estimates does show both the city funds and the utility funds. I do want to dig into the capital investments here because most of this is related to that bond issue we discussed. With public safety, total capital investment in this budget is $1.62 million. Most of that coming from the Geo bond, that's the fire engine at $820K, 16 Ford Explorers, the roof replacement at Station 94, and then some fire station improvements, that 30K, that is one we keep in annually. They just do whatever upgrades they can get each year for that amount at the station houses. Roads and streets, we're looking at 3,569,900. Big chunk of that from the MBH fund, that's our annual paving program. The LRS fund, that's miscellaneous street department equipment. CCI cigarette tax fund, that is the fleet maintenance shop equipment. And then the stuff in the general obligation bond, community crossing grant matching, and the sidewalk replacements, tractor, and the 3 pickups. And the roof replacement, salt barn. Parks and Rec capital, a lot of this is just equipment purchases. At least the ones that are from the bond fund are equipment purchases. The ones out of the food and beverage tax fund include the West Side Park entrance. They're going to reconfigure that. And then do the Craig Park parking lot overlay, path improvements. That 50K for park development, that is an annual one. It can sometimes include playground equipment, it may include security cameras. They just have a lot of different uses for that each year. The Omni decking for the field house, that one is going to allow them to cover the new turf field so that they can rent that space out for, say, something that has tables and chairs on it without damaging the field, or you could rent it out and have like a DJ and have a dance on it, and it'll protect the field. A lot of the stuff coming out of the Geo bond is equipment, tractors, particularly. They've also got some HVAC replacements at the community center, so you'll be seeing that on here for the next 5 years. They're going to do 2 units at a time over there. And then some of the other stuff, the general fleet replacements we discussed. There's some miscellaneous items in the CCD fund, that's that flex budgeting. There's the flex budget in the CCI cigarette tax, the bond issuance costs, and then the office furnishings in the probation fund. So that would be our capital investment plan. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
I have one. Maybe you haven't gotten to it yet, but it seems like we don't think about this each year that we have a local election. I know there's an election cost that's involved in this, whether that's there somewhere or you could just make.
In the past, we've usually used that from the flex budgeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of assume that there are going to be some of those once every couple of year things that pop up. And,
Sure.
In fact, the last election, I don't think we actually did that. I did want to point out at the bottom here, there are some printable summaries. So if you want a hard copy, including the last PowerPoints, the line item budgets broken out by fund or department, and then all of the supporting documentation. So if you need something to help put you to sleep at night.
Right, Mr. Wright, I want to thank you and your staff for all the hard work you've done. I know the city benefits from the work you all put in. Thank you very much. All right. Anything from the mayor?
Yes, Mr. President. Just briefly, I want to again thank Mr. Wright, Mr. Duncan, Mr. McLaughlin, Kevin Steinmetz for all their hard work in putting the budget in again this year. Once again, for at least the 10th year, we presented a balanced budget to the city council and to the residents of Greenwood. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of the fact that we're able to add more to our public safety officials this year. Again, fully staffing the fire department for next year, adding more officers to the police department, and throughout the entire city, being able to add more equipment and manpower to the city means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to the citizens, and I just want to thank them for that tonight. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And with that, we are adjourned.